25th Hour Radio Show.
You're tuned into the 25th Hour Radio Show. I'm your host, Rob Fairless. And on behalf of my co-host, Randy Ashby, we would like to welcome you to today's program. Now, today on the show, we have Benjamin Schultz. Benjamin, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to have you on the show.
Appreciate being, I can't say appreciate being had. That doesn't sound right.
We know what you mean. So, Benjamin, man, you're living in Nashville, right?
Yeah, I'm living in Nashville now. Transplanted.
You haven't lived there too long, right?
No, I just got here at the beginning of the year.
Well, you come from L.A. What's the biggest difference you've seen from Nashville and L.A.?
Music.
The style of music.
Yeah, music, not the style of music, just there's music and musicians here. L.A. is it's kind of like eating itself. The music industry is eating itself, and it's digesting itself nicely. Nashville seems to be like L.A. was in '68 to the '70s, early '70s, during the songwriter period, where it was sorting itself out after it went through the end of the movie star era. Mm-hmm. Nashville's kind of like L.A. was very young, kind of cool.
Not as much auto-tuning going on, right?
Oh, tons of auto-tuning on country pop, but and man, I can't let out the trade secrets.
I hear you.
I'll never work again. Never work again if I let those out.
Hey, Benjamin, what spurred your interest in music, and what was the point in your life that you decided that, hey, man, this is what I want to do for a living?
Well, I started piano at 3, playing trash cans with chopsticks at 5, trumpet at 6, guitar at 7. So I think I was done then. It was just a natural thing. I heard it, I felt it, and I tried the legitimate thing of social psychology. My dad was a doctor. I tried following his footsteps. I studied all that stuff, and it always came back to this. Always came back to music, and just as being plugged in and hearing stuff.
Now, do you consider yourself maybe a natural?
I don't know. People say I am. I've learned not to put words in my own mouth. I let other people do the talking for me.
That's like I've heard many musicians in my day say, when you ask somebody how good are you, if they say they're good, they're usually not as good as what somebody would say, oh, I ain't any good.
Yeah,
it's always best to be humble.
Well, there's that. There's things I've noticed when you play live and you come off stage and you think you did great. Nobody talks to you. And then there's other times when you come off and you have not a clue what you just did. You feel awful. You got a knot in your stomach, and you're the people just fawning all over you. So it's when you don't know what you do is when you've done your best. Your mind is out of it. You're just kind of you're running on instincts and soul.
So how were you trained in music? Did you train yourself? Did you go to school?
No, I went to school. My parents got me piano and trumpet lessons. I was in the elementary and junior high and high school bands. I studied. Then when I finally left Florida, I had to get away. Luckily, I grew up in a farm town where you could have your full driver's license at the age of 14. So by 16, I was gone. And, I went to Miami and played, had lots of local bands. We did well. And then I finally said, I'd better go to school. So I went to Berklee College of Music and New England Conservatory.
What kind of jobs did you hold down while you was in school? Was it always music? Was that always your income?
Music. Had a band called Wizard. We used to open up for the Allman Brothers. We played for 675,000 people in Goose Lake Pop Festival in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I think it was the end of it was 1970 or 1971. I forgot the year.
Now, was that the first biggest band you ever played for when you opened up for it?
Yeah, well, that was the first biggest band I had been in. I grew up with Mike Panera from Blues Image, Iron Butterfly, and we had a tradition going in Tampa is that when the big bands like Deep Purple and Hendrix and Chuck Berry and all the headliners would come in, Mike would take them out jamming, and we kind of had a family. We had a jam thing going, like the jam band thing going now. And we'd go out, and we had this club called Dino's, and we'd take the bands out after the show. And when Mike left to come out to L.A. with Blues Image, I kind of inherited that. And then I started taking, people out. And, we would play, and then it was the Men's Garden Club, by the Tampa International Airport, where, we would just jam. It was a whole circuit. It was great.
Randy, you got some questions for Benjamin?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing, man, just to hear the origins like that. Is there anybody in particular that you've jammed with back in the past that, due to time and things like that, you can't jam with anymore that you wish you could?
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix and Duane Allman.
How did you get hooked up? How did you get hooked up with Hendrix and Allman? I know you said you were opened up for Allman.
Michael Braun. They had a clothes thing called Michael and Tony Designs. They made all the stage clothes for Jimi, Vanilla Fudge, all the rock stars. Michael and Tony went on to do all the clothes for like Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. May he rest in peace. And he did all the wrestlers things. And he's moved on into art. But Michael introduced me to Jimi because Jimi was dating one of the girls that worked for Michael and would come down to St. Pete, Florida, just to get away from the crap in New York. And he takes me to this little place called the Blue Room. I think it was on the Highway 19 and one of the major streets in St. Pete, Florida. A little dive hotel. The bar held about 25 people. And he goes, "Ben, I want you to meet Jimi." And I said, "Holy shit."
Yeah.
The rest was history. And then we were out at the Men's Garden Club, and Jimi and I crossed paths, and Jimi recognized me. He was a very shy cat, real shy. When he was in the studio, they have these movable isolation walls called gobos, and he would box himself in so nobody could see him when he was singing.
Wow.
And he saw a familiar face and he grabbed me, and that's how I got to play with him. That was I was 17. I had no idea what was going on.
How do you go ahead? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I'm just trying to imagine, sitting here jamming with, arguably the best guitarist of all time, at 7, you said you were 17 years old?
Yeah, I was 17. It was a couple of months before Jimi died.
Wow.
A lot of the stuff I did when I was a kid it imprinted me, I guess, or affected me very deeply. And it's been kind of being held under the surface until the past couple of years, where all this great stuff like the Chambers Brothers and Duane and being around Eric Clapton and Panera and Deep Purple and Pink Floyd. I'm not dropping names, but I was around these cats when I was a kid, and B.B. King handed me Lucille in 1969 in Cleveland. I got to play with Johnny Winter in the audience with Jeff Beck and Led Zeppelin and Three Dog Night. You look back and you look at the honor that these folks gave you by giving you the shot to become part of their boys club, their dinner club.
Yeah,
you earned your way in with what wasn't who you were or what you said. It was the notes that came out of your heart and soul and your hands and your mouth. That's what it's all about. And you've got to earn your way into that. You can't get it off the web. You can't. A lot of these artists today, they're bought. They call them, used to call them platter hits, where they were bought on the radio. But there's the real deal is, you learn by apprenticeship, not unlike the Karate Kid, like wax on, wax off. The only way you get it is you're around it. You absorb this. And I'm glad to see that's coming back into the music scene again. It's very, heartfelt, congrats to the kids. They're hungry, and they're looking to the people that did it to learn where they got it from. So it's passing on a torch. It's really cool.
Well, let's talk about the instruments you play. What kind of instruments do you play for those
Brad, or which ones?
Just what would you consider? It's going to be a hard question. What would you consider your best instrument?
My main axe is guitar, but I'm a utility infielder. I've been the whole band on records. I programmed drums. I play keys. I played brass. I've written. I'm an engineer. I know how to mix and produce. I've beta tested software. I've designed instruments. But it all bases around stringed instruments, from guitar to bass to mandolin to square neck dobro to round neck dobro to slide to lap steel. Can't get pedal steel together because I can't do the dance. Can't get that dance together. The 2 feet and the 2 knees ain't happening. Never could, with a bow, violin wasn't it, trumpet, French horn, yeah. Keys, used to be better than I am now. And programming drums and rhythm and percussion, that I do all that.
That is amazing.
Have you always known the style of music that you wanted to play, or has your style changed as you've gotten older?
The music, it's a good song. It doesn't have to be a category. It comes down to, is it a great piece of music? Is it a real song? There's a saying in the industry. There's 3 elements to a hit song, and that's the song, and the song.
3 chords and the truth.
Okay. Yeah, well, basically, yeah. We're not going to go into theory, but yeah, tonic, subdominant, and dominant. Yeah, you got it. C, F, and G, we'll call it. If it's like Dick Clark. I'll give it a 98 because I can dance to it. It's a good song. There's things that soul-wise or energy-wise or whatever you want to call the life force that's within the human being or the spiritual being having a human experience that we gravitate to because it's part of our life force. And when you touch on those elements, that's the thing that everybody, that's what, if you really want to get to the bottom of a hit song, that's it. Your soul or your life force relates to what it's absorbing, and it connects.
I always heard, if you feel it, your audience will feel it.
That's exactly right. I remember Buddy Miles said to me, he says, I don't want to hear it, I want to feel it. And that was the best advice I've ever been given, and I still live by that today when I'm working. When I'm dealing with parts or doing a session or writing a song, I don't want to hear it, I want to feel it.
Absolutely. Hey, tell us a little bit about your group, the Kokoro Group.
Oh, Kokoro Group?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's okay. I mean, they think I either make small dinosaurs or fried chicken or whatever it is. There's a Kokoro Group that makes miniature dinosaurs for the movies. But no, Kokoro Group comes from the Japanese word kokoro, which is roughly the kanji, which means blade heart, which is what the ninja symbol came from. And what it means is that your skills are honed as sharp as a samurai sword and know when to cut and draw blood and when not to. The Kokoro Group, I adopted the name because of the meaning of the kanji and the fact that, one of the things is knowing what to do the right thing when. And I think it's in Punjabi or Hindi, it's called Dharma. It's being responsible to do the right thing and when to do it and when not to do anything. So the Kokoro Group does production, music, whatever needs to be done, whatever somebody calls on me to do, that's what the Kokoro Group does.
I get a lot of philosophy coming from you when I hear you talk. Now,
does
that come from your martial arts background?
Martial arts, mystical, spiritual, just in music. I mean, music comes from sound. Sound is part of our life force. It's all tied together. And being tuned in, reading the trail signs so that you can exist in this world without just being, going on and being a sheep. You got to be aware. And over the years and being exposed to a lot of the people that I met and just finding the answers to the questions that I always had and answering the big why. Why are we here? What's going on? How does this work? I've done a lot of interesting journeys that have created this person, or whatever is these words that are coming out of my mouth. And also, there's the thing you realize that the communicators of the day are messengers. A lot of the times, I know you guys, sometimes you'll go off on something on the radio, and you'll go, gee, where did that come from? You know, it's like the words pass through you.
Sometimes that's not a good thing, though.
It depends on how far you want to eat your foot up to your hip.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, how do you feel you've evolved as a musician for the years, man?
You start not knowing anything, and just sheer youthful exuberance. I mean, the chops. Let's back up a step. Having the talent and the ability, and you must practice. I mean, there's a physical muscle, just like a sports figure, baseball player, football player, being an orator or a commentator. You got to practice your craft. But there are natural gifts you are given. Or we're not going to get into karma, and I'm not going there right now. But however you end up with the chops and talent that you have when you're born, you know, you follow that. And at first it's youthful exuberance, and you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants because you got no idea what you're doing. And then as you connect the dots and learn things, you know, you kind of it's a downturn because now you've mentalized it. You know, you've internalized it mentally, and that prevents you from just doing it and feeling it. So you have this huge upswing, and then there's a couple of, it's like a roller coaster, and you just keep, as long as you keep moving up, even though there's the downturns, you progress. And as you connect the dots, and I keep using that phrase, as you read the trail signs and see how things, the jigsaw puzzle of existence works, you start seeing this common thread and how the creation works. And so that makes you a better musician if you can read it. If you can't, then there's a lot of guys out there that just perform what somebody else does. They're real good at that. But the guys who push the walls out, like Beethoven and Mozart, Hendrix, and Chuck Berry, the guys who really instigate's the wrong word. What word am I looking for? The ones who create and originate new stuff or reshape what was. The creators. They're tuned into that. And that's how you advance. And that's what I look at when I'm trying to judge the advancement, is how far have I gone into finding the simplicity, the nugget of what this all comes from. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes simpler is the best
way to go.
Yeah, there's only one truth. You've got to find the truth underneath all the coverings of whatever you're doing. What's the nugget? What is really here? What's the seed that this comes from? And that's what gives you progress. The more you understand the smallest part of what you're doing, I think that the more you understand what you are doing.
You know, like with music, I've heard a lot of artists, which, you know, I'm no master by any means, but I do love music, and I think that's something that the three of us share for sure, because we all three love music. I've heard a lot of groups just overcomplicate their music to the point where
that's that thinking thing. See, what makes you actually what you just said. You're more important to what I do than what I do. You're a qualified listener.
Mm-hmm.
And qualified listeners are part of the trail signs. If you know how to read a qualified listener, the body language, there's all kind of tells, just like poker. And because the life force is reacting to the music. Qualified listeners, you know, you can play, you may not be able, you may be able not even to play spoons, but you may have the gift of being a listener. And that's one of the other things that as you get better, you start to read that. You know, you can read other things going on. Even in animals, you can read how they react.
Hey, Benjamin.
Yes,
What's
sir.
your part in Legends and Legacies magazine that you're partnering with Gordon Mercutio?
I'm the music editor, and we're just getting this thing off the ground. And you know, you had Gordon's 5 principles, and everything comes back to this Dharma thing, to reading the trail signs, to doing the right thing, to setting, you know, leading by example. You know, so I'm doing the music editing thing. I'm out there collecting people for articles and interviews, and it's new. I mean, I've never been an editor of anything, so I'm treading, I'm treading water, trying to anyway.
It's basically a new challenge for you, right?
Definitely. It's somewhat familiar in certain ways, but the publishing thing, you know, I write songs, you know, so being an editor and judging what is newsworthy and byline-worthy and blog-worthy is new to me. So I'm learning, you know, I'm having to play a little bit of catch-up and learn as I go, but that's the same way I learned how to play guitar. You know, turn the tape machine on, turn on the recording device, I'm winging it.
You can't be afraid to fail.
No.
I've learned that as far as music is concerned. I've learned so many people. Now I played guitar, and I'm not that great at it, but I only chord. You know, it's a hobby. Okay, but I've seen a lot of people out there to play chord. You know, a good practice session, 30 minutes a day, just in a few months, you can play a lot of songs. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of people that'll give up because they say, hey, you know, my hands, they just won't do this, make these shapes or whatever. And I'm telling them, man, to do the things that I do, just as a hobby to play around a bonfire, if you just keep your mind set to it for 1 month, you'll be hooked. You know what I mean? You can't be afraid to try.
Well, there's that you know, fail, then you rise, and then you plateau, and then you fail, and then you rise, and then you plateau. But you're talking about shapes. Technically, some people's bone structure and body structure are not set up for that. You know, some people would be better on a piano than on a guitar. You know, there are some physical sides to this. But if your desire and drive is big enough, you know, that's the thing. In Japanese, they call it giri, which means spirit. You know, it's the thing that you see. It goes along with honor. It's your drive. You don't quit, no matter what it is. You get to the goal and you say, this may not be for me, but you have the depth of character and energy and fortitude to keep going and not let it beat you. You may not be the greatest at it, and in the big scope, it might be a failure. But you got to a point to where you knew what was going on with this, and you just didn't leave it as a big question mark.
As long as it's not a failure to yourself, it's not a failure, right?
As long as it makes you grow. You know, it's like people go, well, I'm afraid to ask the question. Well, if you don't ask the question, or if you don't try for something, or if you don't attempt something, you get nothing for trying. If you don't attempt something, the answer is no. What's the worst you're going to get? A no.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've already got that, so what do you got to lose? Nothing. As long as you don't offend anybody, hurt anybody's feelings, or cause damage somewhere, what the heck?
Benjamin, we got about 5 minutes left. Where do you see yourself down the road? Are you happy with what you've accomplished so far? Is there a burning desire to do more?
Yes, there's a burning desire to do more. To pass on, like what this conversation has been in this interview, which I thank you guys really, really a lot, because there's some words that came out that were totally, you know, I've been wanting to express, and you gave me the opportunity. To pass on what the gifts of the people that passed on to me, like passing the torch, it's time. It's time for me to get back out there. That's one of the reasons why I'm coming back out of semi-retirement. You know, there's things that I was given I've got to pass on. There's things that I do not like with the way, you know, within society in America, that there's no leadership. There's people that, you know, the extended family, there's a lot of soapboxes I have. The kids don't get a chance to be kids. There's no place for them to see, you know, unconditional love like from their grandparents, because there's no extended family in it. There's no heroes like Mickey Mantle or Babe Ruth for the kids to look up to emulate, even though they may not have been the greatest people in real life. Babe Ruth, Frank Sinatra, people emulated them because they wanted to be like them. We don't have that anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we're almost.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just going to say we're almost out of time. But before we go, first of all, I want to say, man, I really enjoyed talking to you and Randy. I'm sure he did too, right, Randy?
Oh yeah. This is frightening, actually.
We got really deep into the conversation, into the interview, and that's really cool because sometimes a lot of our interviews stay at the more generic level. And at this interview, well, it's true. You know what I mean? You've got a set of basic generic questions, but with this one, we really got into your mind a little bit, and you gave us a part of your mind, that, like you said, that you normally wouldn't, be able to express, and to do this over the air like this is absolutely fabulous for us. So before we go,
very welcome, and I think it's duty. I mean, you guys got the same duty to pass on to the people that are looking up to you. Somebody's got to stand up there and say it.
Absolutely. Before we go, though, can you tell everyone where they can go to get more information about you as far as your social media and stuff like that? Okay,
ReverbNation.com/Benjamin Schultz, all lowercase, all one word, BenjaminSchultz. And that'll get you to Facebook, that'll get you to Twitter, that'll get you to everywhere. ReverbNation.com/Benjamin Schultz.
Awesome. Benjamin, we thank you for being on our program. You're always welcome to come back again. Good luck on your coming out of retirement, like you said, and all your future endeavors. We thank you so much for being on the show. Randy, you got some final words for Benjamin?
Benjamin, thank you so much. I mean, I just reiterate what Robert said. Thank you for sharing with us, man.
Oh, no problem. Anytime you guys want to do this or on any topic, let's just wing it, man. We could do our own an op-ed kind of thing.
We could just BS it, couldn't we?
Yeah, watch it with my initials, would you?
I got you. That's a good one, yeah. Well, Benjamin, thanks again.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. This has been the 25th Hour Radio Show. You can find us on Facebook at 25th Hour Radio Show. And join us Thursday when we have world-famous UFOologist Stanton Friedman, who's been on almost every UFO show you've ever seen on TV. He's been on Larry King 4 times. And he'll be with us Thursday. What time is that, Randy? 5:30, right?
I believe so.
5:30 Thursday. We'll see you there. Until then, I'm Rob Fairless, and for Randy Ashby, we will talk to you later. Thanks again, Benjamin.
Oh, man, thank you, guys.